Hey, friend, and welcome to today's episode. Today, I am kicking off the first response to one of the requests that you, the listener, actually reached out and asked for here on the solo episodes of my podcast. I want to say thank you to everybody who went into the show notes and found the link for you to contribute your thoughts, your ideas, what you'd like to hear or see here on the podcast. Thank you. And thank you to those that have reached out on Instagram as well and via email. Really appreciate it because I love doing this for you, and being a manifesting generator, I am so much better in response. So today we are going to kick off with the first of the requests. And I feel like I get this a lot. I've got a whole big class on this in HDX, but I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of how to unpack a human design chart, because I know a lot of you listening to this, you're actually not the larger percentage of the population that'll probably take bits from their design and go run with it and create an amazing life. But you're the ones that want to go a little bit deeper and potentially unpack people's charts or do a reading, whatever your terminology is for others. And you want to know how to do that. So I often get asked about certification. Now, all of the coaching industry, anywhere where you find personal development, spiritual development, human design specific, we have no standards. We do have standards, but we have no formal standards of credentials that we need to have to be able to read a human design chart. It's just like astrology. So the one thing I would say is don't get caught up in having to get a certification. We used to do, our certification program was my mastermind. I don't do that anymore. The mastermind is about the individual on the actual mastermind and potentially whoever else they want to unpack charts. So, but the thing is that so many of the certification programs out there, people do them. And we have so many people in my community that have done their certification, but they still don't know how to actually read a chart. It's like either too much information or not enough practicality of what you actually do with the information. So, if you want to go down the certification path, we do have the International Human Design School, which is Jovian, which is, what Ra and all of his crew set up. And to be honest, I have not done any of that. I wanted to in the beginning, but it's really expensive and it's really long. So you have to take their pathway. And honestly, I'm a manifesting generator. My core talent is all about being the creative rebel. Like, don't tell me what to do and how to do it. Because I'm not going to do it that way. So that wasn't the right solution for me. I did my initial certification course with one of the original kind of experts here in Australia. She's epic as well. But at the end of the day, you don't need a certification, okay? You really don't. And yes, my line one friends, you really don't. You really freaking don't. What you want to do is you just want to get a good understanding of how you work with your design. What does it mean to you? Because remember, we're always going to be calling in people that are like us. Now, if you have a transpersonal profile, then notice what others initiate or invite or inspire in you when it comes to human design. Like, where do they inspire you to learn or grow or serve from a human design perspective? Because that's a little bit different to a personal profile like me, who my human design will always come as a result. I teach you from my personal experience. And yes, I'm a line 3 as well. But that's the point. I am so in alignment with my design. I don't want to be a line 1. I've actually had line 1s that were, a significant part of my community judge me publicly on, not being right down into the details. And I'm like, yeah, here's the thing. That's not my jam. My jam is I'm going to find you the fastest, most direct road to integrate your human design and transform your life. That's my jam. My core talent is to give you the breakthrough. My core talent is to, empower you to break the freaking rules. My path, my nodes, my north node on my personality side is just the 34. It's all about self-empowerment. It's about power, power, power. MG, I'm here to cut the corners. I'm here to go direct. I'm here to work out what we don't need and just throw out anything that's superfluous. And, that line 5 for me is I want to go global. I want to take human design mainstream. So this is the way I teach human design. I also teach all the different, facets of it. Whereas a lot of people are very much in this space of the way marketers have sold to us that we have to niche, we have to have a very niched area in which we go into. So a lot of people have kind of gone deep into one area of human design. And I think as much as that's super beneficial, I also feel like it's just siloing us. It's putting us in a box. It's making us think, oh, well, this is the way I've got to do this area of my life. And the truth is it's not. The way we do one thing is the way we do everything. So I know that my marketing is super powerful because it's aligned to my design. Does that mean that I'm an expert on marketing with, by design? I'm an expert in marketing from my design, and so is T and my team. So what I'm trying to say is don't think that you have to have all the information, all the certifications. You've got to have it all right. What you need to understand is the role that human design is here to play is to give you the keys to the kingdom. You are the kingdom. You are the guru. You are where all the answers sit, where the power lies. So once you have the keys to that kingdom, then you can be your most authentic self and you can create success from whatever that looks like. Because I look at the work that T does, for example, and even Sherelle, who works with us as well in the team, they're both line 1s. So they are so detailed. They go into the depths of everything. They cross all the T's, they dot all the I's. And that's amazing because that's their superpower, right? And they don't expect me to be like that because I'm a line 3. But I don't expect, and then I hold space for them to be as detailed as they want to be. So again, human design is always about you discovering what's true for you, okay? And trusting in, and this is something that's been really big for me, like going to the next level on this for me personally, in really trusting your authenticity, your original frequency, who you chose to be in this lifetime. And that's all you need to be. That's all you need to be. You don't need to be an expert by someone else's definition. You don't need to build a business the way someone else tells you to build a business. I mean, I had this profound moment this morning in meditation, and I was really uncomfortable at one point that I realized, because as I'm sharing on my secret podcast, I've just started a 10-day manifestation experiment. And it's going gangbusters. I'm only on day 2. And one of the things that I realized is, fuck, I'm living the dream. Like, I am living the dream life. I am not accountable to anybody. No one tells me what I can or can't do. I live where I want, how I want. I do the work that lights me up every single day. I hang out with my favorite humans every day. I've created a family that feels so divine and expansive. I'm living a lifestyle when I literally had Lee Harris over for lunch on Saturday, and got to sit in his energy and have deep conversations. I'm actually getting to see him live here in Byron Bay tonight. So I had this, and what I'm trying to say is, like, I just had this moment of like, oh my God, I'm living the dream, the life that I dreamed of for so many years. And it's become so normal that I almost forget how good it is. So as I'm sitting there in meditation, I just felt this like discomfort rising of like, oh, fuck. I forgot how good I've got it. Oh my God, I need to like do something about it. And in this experiment, again, talking a lot about this experiment of stillness and, being still at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, and how this is really transforming my life. So letting that discomfort of, oh my God, I got to do something, got to change something, got to be grateful, got to be this, got to be that, just letting it flow out of my body and go, okay, cool, just go back into the stillness. And one of the big things when I was sharing on my secret podcast about the lunch with Lee Harris, I noticed that I had hesitated a day or two because I didn't want to show off. And it's really fascinating. I don't want to show off about my life. It's one of the things that makes me uncomfortable on Instagram is I could every day show off about how incredible my life is. But I am Australian, and that conditioning of tall poppy syndrome is still a fucking thing, man. It's just a fucking thing. And in meditation this morning, I'm like, yeah, oh my God, I need to show off because I need to show everyone that this is possible for you all. Everyone can create a life that is completely on your own terms, free to be the master of your own destiny, the captain of your soul, as that beautiful Invictus poem goes. So, yeah, needless to say, I am incredibly grateful for the life that I am living and who I get to be every day, and I'm grateful for you. So thank you so much for listening. But hey, wow, I have got a little bit off track. We are meant to be talking about how to unpack a human design chart. So I'm going to give you an overview. From my experience, one of the things that you want to be very careful of when you are unpacking or reading a chart for someone is most people who get their charts done, they love it in the moment, but they walk away not knowing what to do with it. So this would be almost, the 80% similar feedback I get when unpacking charts of someone who's already had their chart done once. Is they're like, yeah, it was really good, but I couldn't do anything with it. So you want to understand that you listening, you're probably into all the gates and the channels and understanding, if you're like me, like all the golden path and the gene keys and how your incarnation cross differs from your activation sequence and how your pearl sequence is, what your core talent is, blah, 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 blah. But the truth is that most people that come to you for a reading, they're not at that place yet. And what happens is that we get super excited and we go into the nooks and crannies, and that's great for the person sitting opposite you, absolutely. But without the fundamentals, without the scaffolding of the macro of human design, when you just have the micro, you're actually not empowering the person you're sitting with because you are keeping yourself well and truly in the expert chair and not bringing them up to meet you. Okay, so the first thing is you want to have the intention that they can actually walk away and practically integrate this into their daily life. Meaning, you always want to start with the macro and then move to the micro. So the macro is, of course, type. So make sure you go through type, understanding their aura, understanding, in my opinion, strategy, signature, and not self-theme are the three things that people must understand about their type, because you want to teach them that your strategy is obviously part of the communication loop that the universe and your higher self use to guide you. Then your signature theme is telling you when you're in alignment, when heart, mind, and soul are all together, moving towards your future self, to your destiny. And then the not self theme is when they flick into their thinking mind, to ego, to fear. So it's always an indicator that you're swerving off that road of your path of destiny. So I really think these are the three places you want to make sure they understand it, they get it. And depending on the person sitting with you, you might ask them, does that resonate? Can you think of a time when that showed up for you? So give them the opportunity to actually integrate as they're there with you. Now, of course, the next place you've got to go is to authority. And taking them through authority is super important because this is their primary decision making. You want to also explain to them the macro, that human design is all about moving you out of the mind and into the body. So this is why we make decisions the way we make decisions, that we have this particular hierarchy of authority, and depending on that hierarchy of authority, this is how we are designed to make decisions. So When you're teaching them authority, again, ask them, does this resonate? Can you think of a time where you listened to that? Once they say, oh, yes, it does resonate, maybe they give you an example of how they've felt it before. You want to actually get them to access some time in the past of when maybe they didn't listen to it, when maybe they did, so that they can have a bit of a lived experience of their design while they're there with you. So once you've got type with the 3 pillars of type, then authority, you've gone through that. One area that I think a lot of people really skip over because they want to get to the micro is they skip over the centers. And I've got to be honest, the centers are the most underrated part of the chart. Actually, profile will be next. I'll go back to profile in a minute. And it can be either way, centers or profile. So with the centers, these are our energy centers. And this is when someone isn't really into human design, or they haven't, kind of gone down the rabbit hole yet, or they feel like it's overwhelming. The centers are a way into the micro for them. When you talk through the difference between definition, like a defined center versus an undefined center, when you talk through, like an undefined center is taking in, amplifying, and reflecting back energy. This is where empathy lives. This is where they feel into the other. Then you talk about definition, and this is consistent, reliable energy. This is who you feel you are. This is who others experience you as. So, and then go through the themes of each center, depending on their design. This is where you'll actually start to see them like integrate, because at this macro level, they're starting to get the themes. They're starting to understand how things weave together. Instead of going, let's say, straight to, and you have gate 55. Gate 55 is the gate of abundance. And it means this, and this. So if you take a step back and you teach them about the emotional solar plexus first, then they already know that this is an emotional gate. They're like, okay, so this is about my emotions. So it's about my emotional wave. Okay, so it's already helping them to integrate the micro before you even get there. Okay, so please, please, please do focus on the centers. Take them through the centers, because often it's the thing that they can take away and again integrate and notice. I've had so many clients, especially in the beginning, that were like, wow, once I understood the centers piece, everything changed for me. So make sure you focus on centers. Profile is also super, super important. Okay, so you want to teach them, is it a personal profile or a transpersonal profile? You want to teach them that this is their how. This is how they walk through life, how they learn, how they experience things, how other people see them, how they serve, what people want from them. It's the original knowledge says it's the costume of your purpose. For me, it's your how. It's how you walk through life. So really get them to understand that. And again, does that resonate with you? Can you think of a time in the past? Are there any memories coming up of how this might fit into your everyday life? So just pay attention to helping them along the way, instead of being the over-enthusiastic reader or coach that is like, oh my God, I've got all this really cool stuff to tell you. It's so amazing. And you're not calibrating for what your client actually needs. Because we could give them the best reading by our terms, meaning that we get the most out. We show them all the patterns. We're like, this is magic. Look at this. And this goes with that. And this goes with that. But if they don't get it, if they don't integrate it, it's not that good. We have to be constantly calibrating where our client's at, because the thing that you think is the best thing for them to take away is probably not going to be the thing that they love the most that they take away, because oftentimes it's the simple thing like, wow, responding changed my life. And you're like deep in the incarnation cross of like, wow, you should see this. This is amazing. So really make sure you're calibrating along the way. Now, one of the things I think is also important before we start to get into the micro, and this is how I know where to go with a micro. At the beginning of every unpack, I'm going to say, what specifically would you like me to focus on? But when you sign up for an unpack with me, which I don't actually do often at all anymore, like every now and then I will randomly open up some unpacks, which I think I might do again. I'm definitely feeling a bit of unpack energy coming on. I really love doing them. But I really burnt myself out on them a couple of years ago. So I just stepped away from it and just did it for certain people. But I definitely feel like I'd love to do a bit of that, a bit more of it now. But anyway, so when they sign up, make sure you ask them. Like, we have an intake form when people sign up for an Unpack with me. So I know what they actually want me to focus on. Because depending on what they want me to focus on will depend on what parts of the micro I go into. I also am very big on intuition. So where am I drawn in the chart? What am I drawn to? I'll do it at first before I read anything. Then I will also do it as soon as I jump on the call. And when I'll ask my client again, what specifically would you like me to focus on? Because often it's changed between them filling in the form and them actually being on the call. And then as they're speaking, I will be just looking at the chart and waiting for any intuition or anything that jumps out. So things really jump out at me. So that is the next thing. Know where you think your client wants to go, all right? Because you could go anywhere. So a lot of the time, especially for me, again, our clients are a reflection of ourselves. And if I was unpacking charts now, I think I'd be getting a lot of relationship focus points, whereas most of the past has been purpose and business. This is what people really want to know from me specifically. So once you know where you're going, know the sort of areas in the chart where, let's say people are saying, well, I want to know what work to do. Like, where do I even go with that? So the way I would look at that is I'd be like, okay, so incarnation cross, and I'll always look up someone's incarnation cross again. It's very rare that I'll just take what I know off the top of my head. I will look it up again. And the reason why I do it is because, again, I'm waiting for something to jump out. So something specific will jump out at me about that particular cross, and I'll just know that there's a reason for that. So incarnation cross. Then I'm always super curious about the south node and the north node. Because this is the path, the purpose, this is the journey they're walking. The rest of the design is all about what's going on in their personality or what's going on in their body and their unconscious mind. So this is the pathway. This is the path that they're on. So if they're looking for something, then they're, depending on their age, again, because you flip into the north node around your Uranus opposition, which is 42. Again, age is a really big deal. You need to know, pay attention to that. What cycle are they coming up to? Is it Saturn return? Is it Uranus opposition? Is it Chiron? Is it their second Saturn return? Pay attention to those things. And yeah, so you want to be kind of calibrating certain areas of the chart. So if they're talking about work, you also obviously want to look at the incarnation cross, the activation sequence. So the activation sequence is the same thing. It's just the Gene Keys version of it. And I love the activation sequence framework because it is specific for each. They call them spheres, but we call them gates in human design. And they also talk to the pathway of challenge. And the pathway of challenge is at the core of every problem you have, basically. Every challenge you have has the foundation of this pathway of challenge. So that's also really helpful to give people, okay, this is the fundamental challenge that's going to come up. Then I suppose it depends specifically what people want to focus on. If people are really into work, then I'm always looking at their core talent. I'll look at their culture. Again, we might look at their brand. And if people are looking for money, I'm going to look for the certain money gates in the design, the 21, the 45, the 14. What else? A channel of ambition is another one. What am I missing? I'm missing something else. Anyway, there's a few of them, so I'm looking for that. I'm going to look at their line number in their Pearl because that's going to be their money frequency. So ultimately, whatever the client then wants, I'm going to drill down on certain parts of the chart. And I'm looking for patterns. So oftentimes what you're going to do is you're going to find patterns that show up or things that just make sense to you in a knowing way. So they're the things that you want to kind of bring attention to. This is bringing your own magic to someone else's design, to someone else's chart. What are the patterns you see? What are the connections you see? I think it could be something as simple as, I know I had a client who was a projector but had this incarnation cross that only had, one activated gate and the other three were just hanging gates in undefined centers. And this particular projector only had two defined centers anyway. So it made sense that you would have an incarnation cross that was, what we call a low workload, because they were a projector. So it was like, you don't have to, even though you have this particular energy of this particular cross, you need to trust the energy that you've got, because your whole design is set up that you will help specific people on one project at a time, maybe. I don't know. But the point is, you could see this pattern of like, although you want to help everyone, you'll have a very specific invitation that you need to follow. So you're constantly looking for different patterns. And the other patterns you're going to find are like different gates that you feel like go together well, or maybe you see someone that has a number of the more challenging gates. You're like, okay, well, this is going to be a person that's really learning how to be human and heal and move on from that. And that kind of leads me into the next piece that I think is super important, is when you are doing someone's chart, don't be a fucking like negative Nancy. Like, don't go back to the original language and be negative about it. Like, that's why most people don't like human design, because it's so negative. So I know for me, in the Gates PDF that I've created, every gate has a shadow and a higher expression. Then think of the gene keys. Use the gene keys because they've got shadow, gift, and Siddhic state. You want to give people the potential of where they're going. Don't be that reader. Like, I don't know about you, but I've been to those astrologers and they're like, well, you're fucked because this is in this house and this is that. And I'm like, well, I'm out. Like, and these are the people that have put me off things like astrology. Obviously, I'm way back on that train these days, but like, don't be the negative Nancy. Like, you can point out that this is the shadow of chaos. And it might look like this. And you might even say, does that resonate? And if they say yes, say, okay, cool. So what the potential of that is that you have this ability to actually really thrive in chaos. You just have to get past that difficulty at the beginning. It's about, once you can take that first step, then you are the one that people are going to look to as structure or systems are being created out of the chaos. This is all about innovation. It's about play. It's a beautiful energy. So you can highlight the fear state, the shadow state, but don't be that person that basically says, oh, well, you've got the gate of crisis, so blah, 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 blah. Oh, you've got the gate of struggle, so blah, 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 blah. Like, don't be that person, because you are not serving. You do not need to warn people. You do not need to warn people. That is not your job. Your job is to empower people, to give them permission to be themselves. If they fall into their shadows, that's up to them. You can give them, this is what the shadows look like. I'll always tell them the shadow looks like this, and I might even ask, have you had an experience of that? Does that resonate with you? But I will instantly say, okay, well, that is just the fear expression. This is the potential that lies in there. Because if you are not giving people the potential, then you're shutting them down. You're keeping them locked in their ego. So make sure that you don't be one of those people who are like, I'm just warning you, you're fucked, because no one's fucked. There is not a design out there that isn't perfect. Every single chart is perfect. That soul called in that chart, and your job is to give them full permission to be their most authentic self. So your job is to give them the keys to the kingdom, the freaking driver's manual. Your job isn't to judge what they do with the information that you give them. You don't need to fix them, help them, solve them, transform them. None of that is your business. None of that is your business. That is totally up to them. You are nothing more than the mirror. You are the mirror that is helping them see themselves. What they do with that information is totally up to them. And I think this is really important for any coaches, any astrologers, anyone doing any modality. Like, you must not be attached to their outcome or what they do with the information, or whether they even give a shit about what you say. because at the end of the day, it's their choice. And I know for me, and I was kind of born this way, but I really encourage everyone to think about the person. If you have a person's human design, you get to see their highest potential. So treat them that way. It's like raising kids. I have two incredibly exceptional children. And the reason why they're that way is because I've always held the space for their potential, not pointed out their shortcomings, not pointed out what's wrong. I'm always like, you have totally got this, mate. You have got this. You'll work this out. You're good. You've got this. And it's the same for your client. You want to give them the potential to step into. Yes, you want to give them the pitfalls. Yes, you want to give them the potential hurdles. Sure. But don't be a fucking negative Nancy, know-it-all. You know better. I know better than you because I've been doing it longer. Just drop all that bullshit. Being an expert means, you've just done more hours, okay? So at the end of the day, think of your job is to hold space for the potential that lies in the person sitting with you. And your job is to give them I'm just going to say structure and strategy. Of course, I would come across of planning, but to give them whatever it is your design gives them, according to your incarnation cross, and just hold space for them to step into it. And just don't worry if they do or they don't, right? It's got nothing to do with you. That is not your job. So the last thing that I always encourage people to do, not especially, if you're a coach, if you're a reader, if you do other modalities, just take time after every session and just reflect. Is any of this relevant to me? Does any of this resonate with me? Did any of this trigger me? Just pay attention, because our clients are often, a reflection of us. Well, not often. They're a reflection of us in some way. It doesn't have to be the whole human, but there will be something within each reading that is there for you to see as well. They are a mirror for you just as much as you are a mirror for them. So the object of the game is to really know what they want you to focus on. The object of the game is to make sure that you give them an opportunity to fully step into and integrate their design. Your job is not to show off how much you know. Your job is not to force them or make them take all this information that you're giving them and force them to integrate it into their life. Not your job. Your job is to enjoy the potential that lies within them and to give them the keys to the kingdom to activate that potential. Whether they do or they don't doesn't matter. That is not your job. That is totally up to them, and what they choose to do with it is their choice. And at the end of the day, come back to, all right, well, what is it that is being reflected back at me in this moment? Because our clients are just as much teachers for us as we are potentially teachers for them. All right, I think that's it. I trust you got what you needed from today's episode, and I so look forward to having you on the next one. Bye for now.